You're tuned in to the Breaking Red podcast, the show for rising military leaders who want to trailblaze the future. We tackle the profession of arms with creative solutions to dynamic issues. This isn't your typical leadership course, so be ready to step up your game and define the future. I am your host, Gabriel Gabe Roccavilla. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Breaking Red podcast. Gabe Brock down in the basement recording in the middle of a successful launch week. 15 September was the official launch date of the podcast, and I was happy to get it started, and already seeing some of the responses back, all positive, and really excited to continue to produce content that's going to be helping our growing community. So lots of different places where you can consume Breaking Red. If you go through your regular podcast platforms, even started a YouTube channel, so you can watch it there, just so you can have something productive in the background, because none of us are no way are we actually watching YouTube videos at work. We're actually always working all the time. So if you can at least get caught, if you have your window up and you get caught watching something like, oh no, this is a podcast, it's about military leadership, and that probably won't get you out of trouble, but you can try. Or you can name drop me. It's still not going to help you, but it might be a tactic just to stall impending doom. Just kidding. It shouldn't be like that. So a recurring topic of Breaking Red podcast is going to be, or I also want to talk about, I don't know if I want to call them work hacks, because I'm not really sure if the term hack is going to be the right label I want to apply to my ideas. And some of them aren't even my ideas. They're just ideas that I've gathered over time. They're not necessarily, I don't try to claim to be the original idea behind it all. I just want to be able to share it. But there are definitely some personal tactics you can employ to drive efficiency for both you as an individual and for the teams that you're respectively leading. I try and protect my time and make sure that I'm focusing on the right things at the right time, whether that's being really efficient at work or making sure I'm efficient at work so I can be there for my family, make sure I carve out time to work on my physical fitness, because that's also important to me. So all of the important things that you prioritize in your life, you have to have time to do them. So being efficient in all aspects of life will help you make sure you have the appropriate time to dedicate towards the goals that you've set for yourself. My new job that I have, where I work in they call it an open office environment at JFHU Doden, very different from a different kind of place. It's an ops floor, right? And so I sit towards the front of the floor. I run the ops floor over my shift, and there's a typical, all kinds of TV screens everywhere. There's theoretically important data fields and things we're monitoring on the screens. Whether or not that actually happens, that's beside the point. But it's a very busy and loud place to work in, and I quickly realized how much I don't like it. I think I got used to my former job as a squadron commander, where I had my own office, which is cool. I have my own personal spot that I can do my thinking and coming up with ideas and that sort. I also had my admin assistant Camille was in the front, and so she was like, the pit bull of the office, where she would filter out certain things before it gets to me, or schedule it for certain other times, just to allow me to have time to myself, so I can actually focus on what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, I don't have any of those kind of things anymore. Just an open environment, just in case someone needs something from me, they will just directly come up to me and start talking, regardless if I'm actually in the middle of doing something, which often I am. Hey, sir, I need you to look at this. Like, okay, I will stop what I'm doing and continue. And I'm not going to be a dick. I will actually listen to you. But I have to navigate how I'm going to become more efficient, still remain an efficient employee, yet also be a good teammate, and establish some lines, just some rules of engagement with my new teammates, to make sure that they understand how I conduct myself, or how I like to do how I'm most efficient at work. That way, I can do the things they need me to do. And I only can do that if I set up some early rules of engagement. So also, the normal office place, electronic communications remain dominant and is still a necessary evil. So we have the normal emails and collaboration, SharePoint things, and different kind of portals where we can post information and hang them there, and getting through all the normal things of a normal office. It's a necessary evil. But I still believe all of those tools can be properly tuned in order for you to become efficient. So I'm going to go over 3 tactics. I'm going to stick with that word that I use in order to make sure I drive efficiency within for myself and for the team. So first off, designated priority lines of communication. And so pretty much you have to sit down with your new boss or bosses and your new teammates and define out these, if subject is important, contact me by this method. So for instance, when I was squadron commander, phone calls were always the most important ones, right? If it was important, you will phone call me, leave a message, and that way that's an indicator that, yes, I'm going to call you back because it's risen to that level of importance. What's never going to be important is something that's sent over email. Email is potentially a supporting effort towards a phone call, which is fine because you could say, hey, I need you to sign this thing. It's really important. I'm going to sign it to you because it's due in 2 hours. But that should always be accompanying a actual direct communication with a office visit or a phone call. Be like, hey, so I need you to, I sent this thing to you. I need you to sign it. So by designating these priority lines of communication, that makes it clear. And you have to say those things up front. That should be one of the first conversations you have during an initial feedback to make sure that you're managing expectations correctly. I would lean forward and say, so for instance, when I was squadron commander, I forwarded the work email, my work phone number to my personal phone. And I told my group commander, my wing commander, if you need anything, call me, or you can text me. But texting, I may not necessarily get back to you, but by all means, you can directly reach out to me. And we established this the battle rhythm. Be like, yeah. So when I saw the phone call ringing and it said MSG commander, yep, I'm going to answer that right now. And I even, my family knew if I was doing something with them, and if that phone rang, and I saw that on there, they knew Dad had to take the phone call. And there's nothing wrong with that. They understand if it's the normal sort of family dinner time kind of things. I normally don't look at my phone, but they understood, I should say, at that point in time, the job that I had and responsibilities that I carried. And so even with my own family, they understood the priority lines of communication, just in case Dad had to go do something else. So again, figure out what those priority lines of communication are going to be with your new bosses and your teammates, and then and remember that it should never be email. I'm going to repeat that. Part 2 is minimizing email interruptions. So you can look up a whole bunch of hacks. Just turn off everything within Outlook, right? The little balloon pop-ups, those things are, and even minimizing some of the views. That way you just kind of see the subject of the line. These are all personal preferences, and so you can kind of tweak exactly how you like to do these. The key thing, though, is you want to make sure that your computer screen, it does not interrupt your normal thought process or whatever it is process or project you're currently working on. So it's just annoying. You get those, you can see these minimal things. It's literally distracting you. And so I would highly recommend minimizing certain things if they're not directing they're not required for your direct attention at that time. I also realized that as I say it out loud and I was talking to my kids about stuff, it may come off that I'm being old about it because, my kids always say, well, Dad, I can totally I can watch something on YouTube and play video games at the same time. I can multitask. And I'm like, no, you're not. Now you're being shitty at two things. How about you just dedicate your time to one thing and be really good at that? Ongoing discussion with both Lana and Ben as far as how we're trying to help them be better about doing quality over quantity. But in general, email interruptions, you can look it up how to just minimize all those distractions. And because it's a necessary evil, you should be looking at email, and but you need to carve out times when you're looking at email, how you organize those things. As far as your if you have an inbox that is just a continuously growing thing, and I can see you have like 200 emails unread, I don't know what you're doing. You need to have a better file management system. Just be better about that. You can do the color coding thing to make sure if something is important, again, it's probably not going to be important, but it's coming from someone important. So in other words, if it's coming from your boss or your boss's boss, you can change the color designators to be like, those emails always turn up in blue, always turn up in red. So that is a helpful visual interruption because I want to look at that one right now versus just the normal chatter of whatever is going on. One thing I always say about email, especially when I go on leave or I go TDY for somewhere, I come back and you hear people say like, oh man, I'm just kind of drudging through the hundreds of emails. I spend about 30 minutes deleting a bunch of stuff. I mean, and I always joke around, if you look at a keyboard, you can highlight all the emails and there's a delegate button. It says DEL on your keyboard. So highlight them all and then you hit the DEL button and poof, those tasks get delegated to somebody else. I don't know where they get delegated to, but I just know they're off of my plate. And because if something was important, someone would come tell me about it and then direct my attention towards those things. So that's another way to to manage your email is that you can delegate, air quotes, them with the DEL button. Again, because if something is important, someone's going to talk to you about it. And I would talk with my chief and my first sergeant or my flight commanders, like, so what's going on? They would help tell me what the priorities were. I didn't have to sit there and barge through my emails. If you have a good filing system, you kind of you can file them away and just look at them when you need to, but you want to minimize how much time you spend in email, because that's not the thing that should be driving your attention. You're doing things for your teams and getting after the actual orders of the day. That's what should be driving your momentum and your efficiency throughout the day, not just being shackled. That's the word, to your email. And I realize as I talk to people about this, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I really don't like email. As the base squadron commander, I find it ironic that I say I really, really don't like email. And even to the point where when email goes down, and a lot of people, I've had actually some different varyings of feedback. When email goes down, I would joke around and say, like, you're welcome. I just gave you some back time to go shake a hand of an airman, go visit a work center or something like that. You don't have to be tied to your email. For some times it would be, and it's all appropriate, right? There are certain times, obviously, people want it to be working, but a lot of other times they take advantage of the time given back to them. Like, yeah, I went to go visit a work center. I went to go have like a quick working lunch or whatever it is. I went to go have lunch with my wife. Like, anything else could be better than email. There's so many things better than email. So just minimizing interruptions and just minimizing your time dedicated towards that, I think will help overall make you a better and more efficient leader. Along the same lines, so tip 3 is collaborate versus send and receive. So email is very send and receive, it's very sequential and serial in nature. You have to look at it. You have to parse through the emails in chronological order to make sure you're following the conversation correctly. Sometimes the reply all, you don't need to see why is that person hitting reply all. We all know that person in the office that's just wasted my time. Like, you don't have to reply all with like, thanks. I don't need to see that. But for whatever reason, they don't know how to use the tools correctly. And so instead of conducting business over email, use collaboration sites. Use collaboration tools like a SharePoint or a Trello or a Slack. There are things that are both available for you at work as well as off duty that you can use to just work on things together. Like, I use Trello if I'm going to be organizing my thoughts how to publish this podcast. I started developing a workflow, please. Now I know this process is going to be repeatable, and now I can see it. It's not necessarily accessible through one Word document on one computer. Like, I can access it through anything from my phone to my other computer, my tablet, whatever it is. There's ways that I can continue to share because I'm not dependent on an email thing. And it's going to get, if it's buried somewhere in my email, I'm emailing myself things, I'm just going to get distracted by the other crap that comes into my email and so into my inbox. So it's important to make sure I have a dedicated site for a specific reason. That collaboration just ends up being much better, and you minimize making yourself a single point of failure. Stuff in email, some people wouldn't sometimes aren't included with the attachments or whatever it is. It's a very inefficient method of being a good teammate and efficient teams. I find it weird that sometimes that some people, like, if I call email a single point of failure, there's also people, I'm sure you know these people in the work center too, they love being the single point of failure because they see it as valuable. Like, I'm the only guy or girl that knows this piece of information. I'm the holder of this product. Therefore, I have value, and I will not share it with anybody else because I want to be the person that is always relied upon for this thing. That is one of the worst models we can have. That person needs to go. That mindset needs to change, or that person needs to go. Whatever that, if you're in charge and responsible for making that decision, make the right decision. By all means, I would highly recommend creating processes that are more inclusive, and nobody likes single points of failure, so that should include people as well. So making sure that collaboration is prioritized over send and receive electronically anyway. Those are going to be the ways that I would highly recommend that you can get some of your time back and to get after all the priorities that you have available to you. Some of the other things I've been consuming, still reading more on the research materials of why open office environments are crap. It was interesting as I took the newcomers orientation for JVXU Doden. They highlighted like, oh yeah, so we built this facility from the ground up, and it's a really nice facility. But they emphasized the fact that they wanted the open office environment because it was designed to promote collaboration. So yes, I get it, but it also is potentially at the expense of efficiency. And so because you're just going to be distracted, I can hear people talking over there, and like, so I'm personally going through some tactics to change up my workflow within an open office environment. If you have any recommendations for me, please send them my way. However you can reach me. Post them on any kind of social media platform, or hit me with a link or tag me in something. I definitely want to consume some of that information. Two things that I've been consumed, I recently have already listened to. So I listened to episode 387 of the Spark Passive Income podcast with Pat Flynn, where he interviewed Eyal. I hope I'm saying his name right, who recently wrote the book Indistractable. So that book is sitting on my nightstand right now, and he talks about more, tactics and work hack techniques in order to become an indistractable employee, because I really want to make sure that the things that I'm doing dedicate my and I put in my full attention. And so if I can help shape and sharpen my workflow processes, that I'm going to try and do those things and make me a more efficient leader. If you want to have more information as far as actually, I'm going to offer this as a bonus. So last year, I taught a 1-hour seminar on time management. It was within a flight commander leadership course. It was a 1-week course, and then they gave me 1 hour to teach about something. And I asked, am I teaching off of known material, or you just want me to read a slide deck, or can I just handle it how I want to? And they gave me free reign to teach what I want, teach what I wanted to. So I did. And so I'm going to wrap it up nicely into a download that if you sign up for our email list, you can receive this free download, time management tips, provide even more ideas. The email things, the 3 points that I went over here, are only a small portion of the this little course that I have. So more than happy to share with those. Just sign up for our email list and you'll get it free download to your to your email. Actually, open that email. I actually want you to open that email, because I wouldn't waste your time if you're going to sign up for our email list. So that's kind of ironic. Last thing, it's going to be the title of this episode. It's only a lot of email if you read it. And I truly believe that. It's kind of like the same sentence applied when I was going through Marine Corps Command Staff College. Yeah, it's only a lot of reading if you read it all. And people were like, well, that you're supposed to. I'm like, am I? Are we supposed to? And eventually, we all find the balance as far as what things do I need to read in order to pass this course? What things do I need to read in our email for me to actually go do my job, and other stuff that's just wasting my time, or I can delete/delegate to somebody else. So really, really big in that to work hack tactics. Will be a recurring topic here on the podcast, and I look forward to sharing them with you and also learning as well. So hit me up with some of your recommendations or anything that you see out there that I can learn to be a better leader, because I think our growing community will benefit from it all. So that'll be it for this episode. Peace. This is Gabe Brock, and thanks for tuning into the Breaking Red podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review so we can improve our work and deliver the best content possible. You can find our community platforms on Facebook and YouTube by searching for Breaking Red Podcast. Keep up with weekly content at our website, projectrise.co, and you can find me on Instagram at GabeBrock01. Like, follow, and share Breaking Red podcast content everywhere possible, both the good and the bad. Join our conversations with other rising military leaders that aren't afraid to break red and learn how to rise to your potential.